Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is GDS, and today we are talking about world building. Not 1D&D. I guess you could apply it to 1D&D. We're talking about world building. The thesis of this video is that what makes good world building is not how much you make, but how much you don't. How much space you leave. Now, the first thing I'm going to quickly go over is why you as a player might want to play in an open world game. The first reason is that it fulfills an elemental part of role-playing. When you play in a tabletop role-playing game, you sit down to play. You sit down to be able to affect the world with your character. You don't sit down to listen to a story. Even if it's a really good story, that's not what you signed up for. I know some people like playing through modules and like playing through games where they are essentially just the main characters and the GM comes up with a plot, but this video is not for them. This video is about open world gaming. The second thing that's nice about role-playing in an open world is that it satisfies some kind of will to power, some kind of will to influence the world that we see. For example, I remember I started playing a game in my university, and part of the world was that the town was ruled by a tyrant who would basically give us commands and give us missions that we would go and retrieve, and then she would pay us some money and that would be it. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, why are we being controlled by a tyrant? Let's start a revolution. Now, the DMs did not appreciate this. That said, you can see how the will to influence the world is something that's deeply rooted in role-playing. Players want to impart some part of their spirit, some part of their creativity onto your world. Even if it's not theirs, when you start playing, you make it theirs. So to quickly summarize this point, as players, there is something deeply satisfying about an open world game. People often like games where they are able to change the world and when the adventure is in their hands. And when players are part of an open world game, oftentimes they start world building for you. This is important. We will get to this. Now, I know that this is a DM channel, not a player channel. If you're a player, you're still welcome. The question I'm going to posit next is why, as a DM, you would want to run an open world game. The first part, and I think this part is obvious to basically everyone who has done any sort of world building, is that we think our world building is cool and clever, and I'm sure it is, and we want the players to experience it, be like, whoa, that's cool and clever, and for the players to feel cool and clever for discovering it. The only issue is that when it comes to open world, it may seem daunting to want to start. The argument in your head may go something like this. 1. In an open world game, players can do anything and go anywhere. 2. Before the session, I need to be prepared for what my players might do. 3. Therefore, I need to prepare everything, everywhere. Now, because we know that the conclusion is impossible and that people have run open world games, me included, we know that there has to be something here. And the something is that premise number 2 is actually false. You don't need to be prepared for everything your players might do. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think your games are better when you only prepare the bare minimum for what you need to run for this session. Let me explain. As GMs, we do our best world building when we're inspired. Inspiration comes to us when we find an idea that excites us, when we're able to follow that idea down a rabbit hole and flesh it out completely in our world. Therefore, we should only design, 1, when we absolutely need what we're designing for this session, or 2, when something inspires us. So when I say you need to prepare the bare minimum for this session, it means these 3 hours or these 5 encounters or however else you quantify your sessions. You will be shocked by how little preparation it actually takes to be able to run a session. I usually run my sessions with 1 to 2 pages of bullet notes that are only legible to me, and I bet if you ask your favorite GMs, they do the same thing. Only design for this session. If you're inspired, that's great. Design what you're inspired by. Even if what you're inspired by won't come up in this session, or next week, or in the week after that, you will always have that thing. You might use it years from now. The good thing about world building is that once you do it, you have it forever. I can't tell you how many times in my games I've recycled basically everything. I mean, NPCs, maps, story hooks, adventures, dungeons, and so on. I can almost guarantee you that your favorite GM does exactly the same thing. Also, in another point about designing when you're inspired, remember that what you want to design is usually what the players enjoy playing. And the opposite is true. What you don't want to design and have to begrudgingly make yourself design is what players don't want to play. Your enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm will infect your players. So when you do this, when you design only the bare minimum of what you need, you end up leaving space. What's the name of the Lord in the next time over? I don't know. What's in that dungeon that's next to the town? I don't know. What the hell is that symbol on the map? And what's there? I have absolutely no idea. The way I started GMing for my friends from high school is I took a piece of paper, I drew a bunch of random symbols on it, and I asked them, where do you want to go? Actually, what I did is we had a Discord channel where I posted this post. You're sitting in the guild house when a very mysterious man with a raspy voice walks up to you. He says, with a raspy voice, that he is the second best cartographer in the entire guild. His father was the best cartographer in the entire guild, but he's dead now. The man explains that since he's blind and can't draw anything, he wishes to leave his father's map with you and your party. He urges you to remember that since his father was partly blind, this map might have inaccuracies, missing pieces, or outdated material. It is now up to you to explore the wilderness and see what's out there. I will include that passage and that map in the nonsense below. Though I have faith that your made-up nonsense map with a bunch of symbols on it is just as good as mine. I understand that as part of your social training as being a DM, you might feel anxious about leaving space. You may feel the need to answer all the questions that come up when you world build. Resist this urge. Only world build what you absolutely need for the next session. Leaving space will help you. This is important. Remember that you world build best when you are inspired. Fill in the gaps when you have more context from your players and from your game, or when you're inspired to fill them. Or better yet, let your players come up with their own answers and make them canon. Let your players' cool ideas fill in the gaps, or even discard your own ideas and replace them with the players. If you like their ideas more, there is no reason you can't change it if they haven't encountered that part of the world yet. Let your players' cool ideas shine, and when they discover they're right, being right will make them feel clever. That also means that not just in world building, when you make challenges like skill challenges or encounters in your session, don't come up with answers. Leave it up to your players to solve the challenge. Let them surprise you. I remember in the same game where I showed you that map, I wanted my players to experience Dungeons and Dragons. So of course we had dungeons and we had dragons. The only thing is, they were 3rd level. And of course, when I told them, oh yeah, and the dragon is flying towards the town, they were like, how the hell are we supposed to deal with a dragon? We are only 3rd level. And I said, I don't know. I have no idea how you're going to come out of this alive. And I meant it. I had no idea how they're going to come out of this alive. That was exciting. Letting my players surprise me was fun. And honestly, not having to come up with an answer is easier. All I have to do is put the challenge out there. One important thing to remember when you make these challenges is that when you make them so the players can solve them with their skills or with their attributes or with their dice, with their character sheets, the players have no reason to care about your world. When you give them problems that they can't solve with their character sheets. For example, you're level 3 and a dragon is heading for town. When you give them such problems, you give them a reason to care about your world. In other words, giving your players problems that they can't solve with their character sheets makes them think about their character from that character's perspective. Not only in terms of stats and abilities, but in terms of people who inhabit a world. The moment you start playing, your world is not yours anymore. It's owned by everyone at the table, and your players will care about it if they can make it theirs. To summarize the points I made this video, only make what you absolutely need for this session, and make what you're inspired by. It's never going to go to waste. Let future you surprise current you with the answers you provide, and let your players surprise you. It's fun, and it's easier. And here's just a quick tip that I found useful when I was running the campaign that I was talking about. If your players have many options at the end of the session and you're not sure what you're going to need in the next session, or the options are too many, just ask your players after the session, hey, where do you guys want to go next? This is not cheating, it's perfectly legitimate, and it makes it so you can prepare exactly what you need and nothing more. Another very, very important thing is to not tell your players that you're doing this. Don't tell them that what's in the dungeon was never determined until 5 minutes ago. Your players want to believe that your world is real. All you have to do is maintain that illusion. When you pull back the screen in this way, it makes them feel like you just made this all up. Which is true, you did make this all up, but you don't want it to feel that way. You want it to feel like your world is a real place with real people and real problems that the heroes need to solve. This video is a long way to say, if you want to GM, just get started. You will be surprised at how little it takes to actually run a fun game for your friends. And how much easier it is to run when you leave space, when you only design exactly what you need for this session, and what you let your players surprise you. I hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments below. Again, the map and the little spiel that I included from my session many years ago is going to be in the nonsense below. If you liked the video, leave a like, hit it an odd number of times. Let's do one. Just keep it simple for this one. Bell, also hit that once. Subscribe buttons, you can hit that 3 times. We're going to give it some extra treatment. Last video I posted, I got some extra subscribers, so welcome aboard. I am very happy to see you here, and I hope you enjoy your stay. If you have any ideas, you have any critiques, again, let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. I will see you all in the next video. I shall see you later.